It's going to be a new defensive unit for the Colorado Buffaloes in 2025, but who gets the starting nod? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba of Athlon Sports. I cover all things college football over there, so go check me out there. Over here at Locked On Buffs, we got you covered every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, so make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. Let's talk Colorado defense. The other day, I projected everyone who's going to start an offense, and I feel like this has been a common theme around social media. I've seen a lot of projections, and I agree with some moves. I disagree with others, and so I was like, you know what? I think it's time for my way too early predictions for the defense, and I'm going to start from the secondary, move my way up into the defensive line. So let's start safety spots, right? Taufik Bayard, I think, is probably going to be, I don't want to say everyone's favorite new transfer portal addition, but I liked what he said when he came on my show, right? He talked about how he wants to lead, even though he was new to the team. He talked about how he wanted to lead by example, how he wanted to step up and be a vocal leader. Obviously, with Travis Hunter no longer in the mix, Shedeur Sanders, Cameron Craig, the secondary is a little different. And so he was talking about being a leader, leading by example. Then in the spring game, he just goes out and balls, right? And I think I like to say starting spots aren't won or lost in the spring game, but they certainly are help. You can help build your case, right? And I think he did just that, right? I think he built his case quite well. I think he made the ultimate sign or showed the ultimate sign of like, hey, I belong here. Hey, this is my job. So you look at him. I think he starts. And then the other safety spot is interesting because you sort of look at what Colorado's done in the portal, and they've brought in John Slaughter from Tennessee. They brought in Noah King, who 24/7 lists as a safety, but could probably play corner or safety, either way, from Kansas State. And then they also brought in the Auburn transfer Terrence Love, who plays safety. So they bring in 3 safeties, and it's like, okay, this is interesting. Like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do at the other safety spot? I'm giving the nod to Carter Stoutmeyer, excuse me. I think he played quite well. I think there was moments last year where I thought I trusted him more than I trusted Shedeur Sanders, right? And that's not a knock against Shiloh. I think Shiloh had a really good season, really good college career. There was just moments where I think after Shiloh came back from injury, he just wasn't the same guy right away. Now, I think there's going to be a lot of competition in this position group specifically, but I do think that they have a lot of potential there. So I'm going to go with Taufik Bayard, Carter Stoutmeyer at my 2 safety spots. The 3 corners, right? DJ McKinney was the one I was most excited about last year. He came in from Oklahoma State, was an all Big 12 caliber guy, played a lot of football at Oklahoma State, comes in, and I think he lived up to the billing. He's a guy who I think with another season, maybe a little bit better than what he had last year, first-round pick potential. Right, I think he has that kind of skill level. Then I'm going to slide over to my slot corner, Preston Hodge, to where he played last year. I don't think he's going to give up that spot. He was really good for the Buffs. Some pretty big moments. And then the other corner who is replacing Colton Hood, and I think it's one of those things where Colton Hood's going to go to Tennessee, probably make more NIL money. I think he probably would have had a bigger impact at Colorado than he will at Tennessee based on what I was told by my Tennessee guy. That being said, RJ Johnson, welcome to the starting role. I think he has a prime opportunity to start. I think Colorado's cornerback room added some depth the other day by adding Wyoming transfer Tyrekus Davis. He's a guy who 5'10", 188. He's played a lot of football at Wyoming, and I think he's someone who has a chance. Tion Parks is probably one of the best FCS corners in the country last year, comes to Colorado. Don't know if he starts right away, but I do think we're going to be seeing him play a lot, at least as a rotational guy. And then Makari Vickers from Oklahoma, former blue chip recruit who has yet to put it together, but he's a guy who could probably see some playing time. So my corners, RJ Johnson, Preston Hodge in the slot, and then DJ McKinney on the other boundary. So, I mean, I really think, had they kept Colton Hood, I really thought that was the best trio of corners in the Big 12. I still think you can make an argument that Colorado probably has the best secondary in the Big 12 or one of the best secondaries in the Big 12. And you have to think their coaching is only going to help them, right? Deion Sanders is the best corner to ever play the game, regardless of what him and Asante Samuel beef about. It's still Deion Sanders, right? Best corner to ever play the game. Then they have Robert Livingston. He was coaching safeties in the NFL, right? I think he got the most out of this defense last year, and I think being a defensive backs guy, I think it'll happen again, even with a brand new unit. Now, let's slide on down to linebackers. I think this group is still pretty shallow. I don't love the depth here. I do think Martavius French and Reginald Hughes, I think they have a lot of they have experience. I think they have a lot of potential. I just don't know what their ceiling is compared to the group or the duo of Levante Bentley and Nikhai Hill-Green. I thought that was one of the better linebacker groups in the country. You're replacing a linebacker duo who was graded as one of the best run-stopping duos in college football. You're replacing that with two guys from smaller schools. I would say they're in smaller stature, not the same sort of linebacker. So we'll have to wait and see. They added Kylan Salter from TCU, and then they also went out and grabbed Sean Myers from North Alabama, I believe. Depth is decent. Don't love the linebacker group. It's the group that concerns me the most, simply because it feels thin, right? And maybe they're going to make another addition, but I don't think that's going to happen, right? So linebacker group is where I think linebackers are pretty straightforward. I'm not expecting any. I don't think there's going to be any like shocking moves there, unless maybe like a freshman like Montrez Walker steps in right away. But I'm not foreseeing that happening. I just think that this is a position that Colorado actually needs to get a lot better at. And then let's slide down to the defensive line. This is where it gets interesting for me. I'll go with edge. First, Arden Walker, team leader. I think he's really good. I think he had a really good season last year. I'll pull up the stats right now. Colorado has a lot of good pass rushers, and I think we're going to see a plethora of combinations. Arden had 4.5 sacks last year. I think he builds on that, and I think Colorado has, like I said, I like this is a good problem to have where you have a lot of pass rushers, because that's the name of the game is getting to the quarterback. He was second on the team in sacks last year behind BJ Green. They lose Taj McCoy. Keaton Wade is another guy who I think will play a lot of football for them. He was a guy who was initially supposed to redshirt, and then they were kind of like, okay, he's kind of popping off. We need him more. So Arden Walker, defensive lineman. We have Jaheim Otis. Everybody I've talked to about Jaheim Otis, whether it's Alabama insiders or transfer portal insider, they say he has all-American potential. It just someone needs to tap into it. Someone needs to find it or help him find it in him, right? He's a former blue chip recruit, mammoth of a human being. I mean, absolute mammoth. He is 6'5", 320, looks the part, super strong. He just needs a coach who can help him find that confidence, I guess, or channel that consistency. And so I have him as one of my interior defense linemen. And then I also have Anquin Barnes, right? Anquin Barnes is a guy that I thought we'd see a lot more of last year, but I do like what he brings to the table. We didn't see a ton of him, but he is also a mammoth of a human being. 6'5", 340. And last year, you look at how he did, and in a limited role, because he wasn't necessarily the guy, right? They had Chidozie, so they didn't really need Anquin to be Chidozie, I guess you could say. But I still think he showed flashes, and I think another year in the system, another year with coaches really helping him. He had 13 total tackles, 1 pass deflection, an interception even. So the guy could do it all. I think him and Jaheim Otis, that's 700 pounds of girth up the middle, 2 big-bodied, physical guys who I think are going to have tremendous seasons. And then lastly, I go to the other edge spot, and you can make a case for Arden Walker, right? You can make a case for someone else, or not Arden Walker. You can make a case for Samuel Kunalola. You could make a case for Keaton Wade. I think you got to go Quincy Wiggins, right? I think it means something that Coach Prime trusted him to be the play caller, right? There was the well-off media video where he was the guy with the green sticker, which means he's the one calling the plays. To me, even if that was just for the spring game, it shows that they view him as a leader. They view him as someone who they could trust and who they could count on. And so I think Quincy Wiggins is due for a big year. And Quincy Wiggins is a guy who he was about as blue chip of a recruit as you could get going into LSU. He was a Baton Rouge native, top 50 player in the country, number 1 player in the state, number 9 defensive lineman. I think Quincy Wiggins carves out a role for himself, right? And I think also, and this isn't to shoot down any of these youngsters, because I do think we're going to see a lot of rotation at pass rusher, because I do think Colorado's going to have one, you got to find who's clicking for you. You got to find the combination. But 2, sometimes you just got to get fresh legs in there. And so look at London Merritt. They flipped him from Ohio State, IMG Academy, 4-star recruit. I expect him to make an impact, right? I expect Alexander McPherson to make an impact on the defensive line. Another IMG Academy guy. Christian Hudson, I don't know if he'll play a lot, but he's been compared to Chidozie Nwankwo. They called him Chidozie Jr., some people were saying. 6'1", 280, a little bit undersized, but plays with a lot of strength, a lot of power, and a lot of heart. And so I think this defense has a really, really, really good opportunity to probably be around the same skill level as they were last year. I think losing Travis and some of the guys that they lost will hurt, but I do think that there's a lot of depth here, which, I mean, you want to have depth. If you don't have the top end talent, you got to have depth. And I think Colorado has a ton of depth across the defensive line, in the secondary. Only place that concerns me is the linebackers, which it's a little concerning that that's your biggest weakness, because that really puts a lot of pressure on them in particular, and a lot of pressure on the defensive front to sort of not allow the linebackers to be exposed in the rushing lanes. But hey, we'll just have to wait and see, find out who steps up, who doesn't. When we come back, can Shedeur Sanders start for the Cleveland Browns? I keep hearing a lot of different things about the guy. Let's take a quick break, though. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. Let me tell you about FanDuel. The NBA Finals, first of all, they're going on right now, and FanDuel is the place you want to be to get in on the action. Every night they deliver highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. So, which players are showing up big? I don't know. Tyrese Halliburton keeps hitting game-winning shots. He's having the most clutch playoffs ever. So I would trust him a little bit. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, even in the loss, is dropping 30+. So those 2 point guards, hard not to trust them. So if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. Give me 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcast, so that way we continue covering the Buffs. We could continue having fun, and we could continue talking about Shedeur Sanders and whether or not he's going to start, because I do think it's getting interesting over there in Cleveland, right? I think there's the more news that comes out of Cleveland, the more I think he has a chance, right? He's not getting a ton of reps, which this is how I think it's going to unfold. And I don't want people to take this as me saying Shedeur can't start. I don't think he starts right away, and that's fine, right? They brought in Joe Flacco, Joe Flacco is as old as they come. He made a joke the other day that he almost played against Deion Sanders. And so I looked it up, and there was about I think it was a 3-year span between them, right? So there was when Deion Sanders played for the Ravens, had he played for 3 more seasons, they would have been teammates, which is kind of crazy to think about. So Joe Flacco's up there in age. Kenny Pickett is a guy who brings a lot to the table mobility-wise. That being said, you have to sort of realize this quarterback room is not that good, right? Joe Flacco is a good quarterback, was at one point in debates over whether or not he was elite. Kenny Pickett is a flameout. I think he's going to be a career backup, and I think this is just an opportunity for him to be a bridge quarterback. Dillon Gabriel, I thought he was a really good college quarterback. I didn't see it translating to the NFL. I didn't see him being drafted before Shedeur. I saw a lot more people thinking that he'd go undrafted rather than being drafted as high as he was. And then there's Shedeur. And the noise around Shedeur is he's stealing the show. Right. There's ESPN insiders saying, I think he has a good shot to actually earn the job. And then you look at some of the stats. LaShawn McCoy. I mean, this isn't a stat, but LaShawn McCoy said the whispers over there basically are, "Hey, man, he looks like the best quarterback here." You look at the stats. He has one turnover. He's throwing for multiple touchdowns every day, right? He's earning more reps by the day, and so this is how I think it'll play out. Because I saw this ESPN prediction that said he would start in November, which is like about September, October, about 2.5 months into the season, right? I think Joe Flacco gets the starting job. I think you go with the veteran. I think you're going to get to a point where you realize, okay, Joe Flacco's 95 years old and is not a starting quarterback in the NFL anymore, which is fine, right? Joe Flacco's there, whether he wants to admit it or not. And he said he won't say this because obviously he made a good point. He was like, hey, why would I say I want to be a mentor? Because then that makes it seem like I don't want to start. Why would I say I don't want to be a mentor? Because then that makes it seem like I'm not a good teammate. So Joe Flacco, he knows he's there to mentor these young quarterbacks. And I think he starts until sort of the wheels fall off. Maybe they give Kenny Pickett a chance. Maybe they don't. But we've seen Kenny Pickett, right? If they do give him a chance, it's not going to go well. Maybe they trade him. Who knows? Quarterback injuries happen all the time. Maybe they trade him to a team that's quarterback needy. I think Shedeur Sanders is starting by week 7 at least. I think that gives you enough time to see, like, hey, Joe, like, we appreciate what you've done. You just don't got it. Hey, Kenny, we appreciate you trying, buddy. You're not the solution for us. So that's how I think it's going to unfold. You guys comment below. By what week do you think Shedeur Sanders is starting for the Cleveland Browns? I think it's very possible he starts midway through the season. I do think he's going to record at least 2 to 3 starts at a minimum. So let me know what you guys think. We'll debate in the comments. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about Colorado's 2 quarterback targets because they need some more quarterback depth. So let's take a quick little break here. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me the first listen of your day. We were free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Every dayer, I greatly appreciate you and everything that you do for the show. Show would not be possible without y'all. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. If you haven't already, give me 5 stars. So that way we can continue to grow the show, continue to grow our community, and continue to have some fun. Let's talk about it. Colorado's quarterback room is currently comprised of Caden Salter, Julian Lewis, Ryan Staub. Right, those are the 3 guys that matter in this quarterback battle. Ryan Staub, I think it's only a matter of time before he decides, like, hey, I want an opportunity to start. And I don't know if he's going to get that in Boulder. So if you ask me to predict who is going to lead this quarterback room, it'd probably be him. Julian Lewis, I think, will start next year. And I think they go with Caden Salter this year. He'll close out his career as one of the better dual-threat quarterbacks in college football. That being said, they are in the mix for 2 4-star quarterbacks in this upcoming class. Oscar Rios, who has Kentucky and Oklahoma State who are after him. And he has a Colorado visit coming up. California kid, pretty big. I think there's a lot to like about him. I think he's probably a little more overlooked, but he'll get a chance to prove himself at the Elite 11. He's an Elite 11 finalist, so he'll have a chance to prove himself there. Committing on June 25th, so that's in 20-ish days. All the teams that are in the mix for him are Colorado, Arizona, UCLA, Oklahoma State, Kentucky. They're all warm, apparently. And from April 11th through June 20th, with Colorado gets the final visits, I think he's going to make a decision there. And I think Colorado having the final visit bodes well for them. But they don't have all their eggs in one basket. They also recently offered a new quarterback, or at least new to them, right? He's not new in general, but Luke Fahey, I believe is how you say it, 4-star. Mission Viejo, California, which is down south. Ole Miss, Auburn, Oregon, Washington, Florida State, they're all after him. 6'1", 193. Ranked as a 4-star. I think he's probably on the lower end. I don't think he got the Elite 11 invite. That doesn't mean everything, though. He led Mission Viejo to a state title, so he clearly knows his way around winning. And he's got programs like Indiana, Stanford, Oklahoma State after him. This during 2023 helped guide Mission Viejo to the CIF title, its first state championship in 8 years, threw for 2,184 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 16 games as a sophomore. Also plays basketball and lacrosse, does a little bit of everything. Ohio State's after him. He's visiting Indiana, but the Buffs are coming in strong. They're coming in a little later, which could affect them, but I think it's a good thing to have other options. So those are the Colorado's 2 quarterback options. I think landing 1 or 2 would be great. Obviously, you need depth behind Julian Lewis. Injuries can happen. The transfer portal thing is always a possibility these days. You never know. They're also going to be hosting visits, or they're going to be having people visit. We'll just put it that way because I can't speak English right now. Colby Johnson, 3-star linebacker, very undersized, 6'2", 195, out of Samish, or Sammamish, I don't know, Washington. I don't know how to say that, but he's more of it seems like a Mountain West FCS kind of recruit. San Diego State, Fresno State, Montana, they're after him. And then my favorite recruit that they're in the mix for, Preston Ashley, defensive back out of Brandon, Mississippi. He announced that his final 3, Colorado, Florida, and Florida State. So Deion Sanders will be going up against his alma mater, or his, people always get mad because he graduated from Talladega. He's going to be going up against Florida State again for a recruit. And I kind of like that rivalry. So we'll see who wins out there. But that's the latest on the Colorado recruiting trail. I'll keep you guys updated every step of the way. I will see you guys the next time. Hope all of you have a great and safe weekend. This has been Locked On Buffs. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow.